That's where they wrap up day one of the Republican National Convention. Tucker Carlson there shaking Donald Trump's hand as well. But it was so close to being a total calamity, not just for Donald Trump and his family, but for the US political system and the US nation if he was killed.
It's a very scary what if the former president hadn't survived. But Kieran, two things on display at that convention: unity and energy. Even though the former president may have looked a little subdued himself, on the floor of the convention, a lot of energy, complete unity. The Republican Party reshaped in Donald Trump's image. And those two things, unity and energy, stand in stark contrast to the Biden campaign at this point.
Yeah, he's still got that energy, doesn't he? There's no doubt. And that image of him with that fist aloft, there he goes again. But with the Secret Service around him, moments after being shot, and we've used the term a lot, but I think it's appropriate. That is, and was almost immediately, an iconic image.
It'll be an iconic image for the decade and maybe even the century. And it just... the crowd chanting "fight, fight, fight" on the floor of the convention. You can see the way the Republicans will use that. And there is something called the Commander-in-Chief test that American voters probably look at in a way that Australian voters don't. Does this person have the personal qualities to be a good Commander-in-Chief? Because presidents are also Commander-in-Chief of the armed forces. And I think after the weekend, the contrast between former President Trump and President Biden was made even more stark.
The other point that, and this is with Trump's appointment and announcement of his running mate, J.D. Vance, the contrast in so many ways with the other side of the ticket again is made. With you can reflect, if you like, Mark, on the fact that he does appeal to the Rust Belt. It's where he grew up in Ohio, J.D. Vance, but he's also an incredibly good communicator himself.
He is, and he wrote that book, Hillbilly Elegy, both as a personal journey, but also to try and explain the popularity of then candidate Trump and then President Trump in those Rust Belt states. And he was able to point to a whole section of American society for whom the American dream had become an American nightmare. They felt disenfranchised by the political elites. They felt impoverished by the economic elites, and they needed a voice. And somehow the former president was able to tap into that and give them what they felt was a voice. And as you say, it grew out of his own experience. And here's a classic case of military, hard work, education. He wound up going to Yale Law School, a very prestigious law school, worked in a major law firm, etc. And very soon he found himself in the Senate and now vice president, potentially one day president.
Vivek, the former presidential candidate, spoke to my colleague Annalise Nielsen and said that it actually could be potentially a strength, the fact that he'd come from being a former critic of Trump, a never-Trumper in fact, to now being a very strong supporter, endorsed by Trump for his own election to the Senate in 2022.
He made some scathing remarks about the former president, and then he had a Damascene conversion somewhere along the way and became an acolyte of the president and one of his strongest supporters. Been with him on the campaign trail, went to New York during the trial to offer support, and he's been rewarded with the vice presidency nomination.
Mark Watson, Senior Fellow at ASPI, great to get your insights. We'll stay in touch over coming days. This extraordinary story of the US election continues.
Thanks, Kim.